Okay, for 3.2 for workplace math 11, we're looking at the surface area of pyramids, cylinders, spheres, and cones. Okay, so remember, surface area is the area around the outside. However, just a few things that we need to go over is how to calculate the shape of, make sure we remember how to calculate for a rectangle and for a circle. So remember, a rectangle is just your length times your width. In this case, we have a length or width, it doesn't matter which one you choose is which, of 12.6 centimeters, 58.4 centimeters. If you multiply those together, you get a total of 6,575.84 centimeters squared. Now we have to do the circle. Remember the circle, we have two half circles, so it adds up to a full. Area of a circle is pi r squared. However, we have our diameter. Remember, half of our diameter is equal to our radius. So we have pi 58.4 divided by 2 squared, which is going to get us a total area of 2678.65. And to find our total area, we just take our two numbers and add them together. So we get a total area of 6,575.84 plus 2,678.65. That's you 9254.49 centimeters squared. Notice how many decimal places that I took while I was doing this. I only took 2 with each number. Okay, anytime you're dealing with multiplying something by pi, you're going to get a decimal that goes on forever. So the good way to do it is just to take 2. Okay. Now we have a case where we weren't given any numbers. Okay, when this happens, what we do is we just use the variable that is used to represent that side length. So this is a square, which means that all 4 sides are equal. So we just label them S, and the area of a square is S squared. Okay, then we have our area of a half circle, because this is only half a circle. Okay, so we have 1/2 of pi r squared, and in this case, our radius would be half of our side length. So we can put these together into a formula that works no matter what our side length is that we are given. S squared plus 1/2 pi S over 2 squared. You can leave it like that, or you can simplify it down. If you simplify it down, S squared plus 1/2 pi S squared over 4. That's just your exponent rule if you apply it to each thing in the bracket. S squared's not going to change. We have pi times S squared, and 4 times 2 is 8. So that could be a final formula that you could use no matter which side length you are given. Okay, so try your builder skills, numbers 2 and 3. Come back when they're done, and we'll keep going. Okay, now that those are done, we are moving on to areas of a cylinder. Okay, so a cylinder is a 3D shape composed of 1 rectangle and 2 circles put together. However, notice that when we're dealing with the formula for the rectangle, it's no longer length times width, it's now circumference times width, because a lot of the times when you're talking about cylinders, you're not given what the circumference of the circle is, and that's how long that side is. So we need to figure that out. So I've put the formulas down for you for any time you're dealing with a cylinder. So for example, I identified that the area of the rectangle is your circumference times your height. I have identified that the circumference is equal to 2 times pi times your radius. That's your standard circle formula. And then I just plugged in the 2 pi r instead of the c, and now we have 2 pi r times h. Okay. Then we have the area of the circle, which is pi r squared, and we have 2 circles, so we have 2 in front of that. Sorry, not the other 2. The other 2 is just part of a formula. Okay. So this would be your total formula for any time you are trying to deal with finding the surface area of a cylinder. Okay. So with this one, we are given everything that we need. We are given our radius is 90, our height is 300. So if we plug it into our formula, we have 2 pi 90 squared plus 2 pi 90 300. Okay, so when we get through to figuring these out, you can do them step by step. Solve for 90 squared, then multiply by 2 and multiply by pi. Remember, pi is just a button on your calculator that you use now. Okay, so then we have, once we calculate it all out, we end up with 220,539.80. Keep our units, and they are now squared. Okay. Then we have our next one. We have our radius of 1.5 and a height of 5. So that makes it easy. R equals 1.5, which equals 5. 2 pi 1.5 squared plus 2 pi 1.5 times 5. If you calculate that out, your first one should equal 14.137, and then your second one is 47.124, and we get a total of 61.26 meters squared. Notice that with my ones that are within the calculation and not my final answer, I take more decimal places. Okay, if you start taking 2 before you are done, before you have your final answer, your answer will be off. Okay, so it is important that we keep a couple more decimal places than we want while we're doing our calculations. Okay, so that would be your final answer. Then we have find the surface area of a pipe that has a diameter of 4.5 centimeters. So now we have diameter and is 18.8 long. So we know H is 18.8, but we have diameter. When we have diameter, we need to divide it by 2 to find our radius. So that's the formula that I have over here. So we will do 1/2 times 4.5, which gets us 2.25. And then now we can do our calculations because now we have a radius of 2.25. Okay, so surface area equals 2 pi 2.25 squared plus 2 pi 2.25, 18.8. Okay, calculate it all out, you end up with an answer of 297.587, which rounds to 297.59. Put our units back. They were centimeters originally, so they're centimeters now. Okay, if at any point this video is going too fast, remember you can pause it, fill in what you have, and then keep going. Okay, the next shape you're dealing with is pyramids. So pyramids are 3-dimensional shapes with a polygonal base. So that's just a side with 4 or more sides, or 3 or more sides, okay, and lateral sides that are triangles. Okay, the net of a pyramid will consist of the base plus as many triangles as there are sides. So find the surface area of a square base pyramid. If we wanted to draw the net, it would be a square, and off of each side would be a triangle. Okay, so we have 4 sides on a square, so we have 4 triangles. So I have written down the formulas that we need to be able to do that. Okay, so if we look at this, we have a base or with side lengths of 24. So this is 24 squared. 1/2 24 times, and our height was 16. Okay, so that's not too bad. If we square 24, we put it to the power of 2 or times it by itself. Remember, squaring is not multiplying by 2. We end up with 576 meters squared. And if we do our area for our triangle, we end up with 192 meters squared. But remember, we have 4 of those. So that means that they account for a total surface area of 768 meters squared. Then we take our two numbers and add them together to get our total. 576 plus 768. We get 1344 meters squared. And that would be your final answer. Okay. Then you have this one here where you're given a diagram instead of it in an explanation. And what I've done is I have written the formula so that it's all one formula as opposed to it being separated. You can do it separated. Just remember to do that final step of adding them together at the end. So I'm just going to fill in my formula. So when we solve all of this out, (28) squared is 784. And then our 4 keep, we'll do it in steps. 294, 784 plus 1176, 1960 meters squared. So all that happened was I solved my exponent and what was in my brackets. Then I did my multiplication, and then I added together to get my final answer. Okay. So this question's a little different because a pentagonal base pyramid is sitting on a table. If the sides of a pentagon, which is 5 sides, are 18 centimeters, and the slant height of the triangles is 28 centimeters, what is the exposed area of the pyramid? Pay attention to this exposed area. If something's sitting on a table, the bottom is not exposed, so we are not including the base. Okay, so that means our formula would solely be just that of a triangle, which is 1/2 your base times your height. So we do that out. We have 1/2 18 times 28. We have 1/2 of 18, which is 9 times 28 is 252, but remember we have 5 of them, so times that by 5, and we get 1,260 centimeters squared. That would be your final answer. Okay, keep moving on. If the surface area of the sides of a square-based pyramid is 680 centimeters squared and the side lengths of the square are 16 centimeters, what is the height of the pyramid? Notice now we're solving for something different. Okay, so when you're in this case, it's handy to write out everything you have. So we have a surface area of 680. We have a side length or base of 16. Okay, and height we don't know. Since that's only one unknown in the equation, we can solve for that. So I'm going to plug in everything that we have, where its symbol is. I'm going to solve it out as far as I can. So 680 is still the same. We have 16 squared. Okay, so 16 squared, 256 plus 4 times half of 16, which is 8, gives us 32H. Okay. Then we do our 680. We need to get rid of our one that is not attached to the letter. So minus 256 equals 32H. Okay, then we have to solve what this is. And we have 680 minus 256. Now we got to get rid of our 32. And then we have 13.25 is equal to our H. So H is equal to 13.25 in our units, centimeters squared. Okay. So then we are on to surface area of cones. So we have our two different formulas that you may need. So you have the area for just the lateral area or just this part, not including this part. Okay. If you want to include both, there's the formula for the bottom. There's the formula for the other part. Okay. So however, when you're solving these questions, it's possible to be not given the actual slant height. Okay, so notice that we want this. However, you may be given this. If we remember from our previous chapters that we've done, and maybe in other grades, if we look at our formula, this is a right angle triangle. Okay, so we have our radius, our height, and our slant height that make up a right angle triangle. If that's the case, we can use our Pythagorean theorem to calculate the unknown side using this formula. So our radius times itself plus our height times itself will equal our slant height times itself. Okay, so we're going to do a couple questions where you don't need to solve for the slant height and then a couple where you do. Okay. So find the surface area of a cone that has a slant height of 82 centimeters with and a radius of 28. I have already written out the formula for us. So I'm just going to plug in what we have. We have S equals 82 and R equals 28. And we solve it out, plug that all into a calculator, make sure you can do it correctly. You should get 9676.11 centimeters squared. Okay. If you can't get that in your calculator, make sure you come check with me and we can see what's going on. Okay. Now we have one where we are given the surface area of a cone with a diameter of 13.6 and a slant height of 9.8. So remember, your diameter is double your radius. So to get your radius, you just do 13.6 divided by 2. Okay, so we have a radius of 6.8 and we have a slant height of 9.8. So if we plug that into our equation, we have pi times 6.8 times 9.8 plus pi times 6.8 squared. When you solve that out in your equation, you get 354.62 centimeters squared. Right. Once again, if you get any of these questions and you're getting a different answer, no matter how many times you try it, it's still giving you a different answer. Okay, come see me and we'll figure out what's going on. It is purely possible that I made a mistake in these questions. Okay, so just bear with that. Okay. Next one, we have to find the total surface area of a cone with a radius. Oops. with a radius of 16 inches. Okay. And a height of 20. So notice it is height of 20 and radius of 16. So we need to solve for our slant height. What I have done is I have rearranged the equation already so that we have our slant height all by itself. So we need the square root of 16 squared and 20 squared. So when we do that, we end up with square root of 656. So you do 16 squared to get 256, 20 squared to get 400, add them together to get 656. And then you square root it to get 2561. Then we go ahead with our other equation, because now we have s. So pi radius is 16, slant height is 25.61, plus pi 16 squared. You should end up with a total value of 15,252 and 96 millimeters squared. Okay. We're going to keep going. This one's long, I know. Well, that is not the right answer. He was looking at the wrong one. 2091.55 inches squared. There we go. Now you have the answer for the second one. Oh, look at that. Okay. Once again, we are given the height, not the slant height, so we need to solve for it. So that is slant height is the square root of 45.7 squared plus 39.7 squared, then square rooted. You end up with s is equal to 60.54. Make sure you can get through and get that answer. Okay, it's important you know how to use that equation. Then once we have it, we plug everything into our equation. So pi 45.7, 60.54, pi 45.7 squared. Now you end up with the 15,252 and 96 millimeters squared. Okay. So paying close attention to the questions we've done so far. Now we're looking for the lateral surface area of a cone. So remember, when we're looking for a lateral surface area, we are not including the base. So we don't need the pi r squared part of our formula. So it is just pi times r times s. Okay. So notice that we only have h. And we have our diameter. So h is 32. Diameter is 28. That means our radius is 14. Okay, we need to solve for our slant height. Okay, so remember s is equal to the square root of r squared plus h squared. If you plug everything into your formula, square root of 14 squared plus 32 squared gets you 34.93. Then you plug those into your equation of pi times 14 times 34.93 to get a total area of 1,536 and 30 centimeters squared. Okay. I know we're going fast, but you guys can always pause it, rewind it, retry it. Okay. Next, we have the surface area of a sphere. Remember, a sphere is a ball. All points in the sphere are equidistant from the center, which just means that they are an equal distance away from the center. You cannot draw the net of a sphere. It is impossible. And to calculate the area of a sphere, surface area of a sphere, you use this formula. So 4 times pi times your radius squared. Okay. First one we start off with is a little tricky. We are given our surface area. We need to find the radius. Okay. So I'm going to plug in what I know. 9,990, 4 pi r squared. I'm going to get rid of the 4 pi on either side. And I'm going to leave it like that just so that when I'm doing it, I can plug it all in the calculator and get the exact answer. So that's going to leave me with r squared equals 990 over 4 pi. Okay, to cancel out my square, I need to square root each side. And that means that r is equal to the square root of 9,904 pi. Okay, and when I plug that into a calculator, I can do 9,900 divided by brackets 4 times pi equals, and then do my shift x squared if you're doing it on the calculators provided. Okay. That should get you a total of 88.18 centimeters. Okay, notice the units are not squared anymore. When we square rooted, that got rid of the square. Okay, find the surface area of a sphere with a radius of 1.3 meters. Easy, 4 pi 1.3 squared, 21.24 meters squared. Done. Spheres are pretty easy. Okay. Remember, you were in this one, you're given find the surface area of a sphere with a diameter of 24.8. So if our 1/2 of our diameter is our radius, so we have surface area is equal to 4 pi 12.4 squared. You get 1,932.21 millimeters squared. Make sure you're including your units. Okay. Next one, find the surface area of a hemisphere. So that's a half circle, so kind of like a Bosu ball that you would stand on. So you need to find the area of the half circle and then the area of the circle that would make up the base. So that is why we have our 4 pi r squared divided by 2, and then we have our pi r squared to account for the circle made of the base. So we have 4 pi 18.5 squared divided by 2 plus pi 18.5 squared. So if we plug that all into a calculator, you should get a total of 3,225 and 63 centimeters squared. Okay. Last part of this section is using multiple shapes combined together. So first we need to do is identify the shapes. So we have a cone and we have a cylinder. Remember your formula for a cone and your formula for a cylinder. However, with the cone, we only need the lateral surface area because the bottom is not showing. So we have pi rs, and then we have our cylinder, which is 2 pi r times h plus 2 pi r squared. Okay, so we're going to solve for each one separately, and then we're going to combine them together. So cone pi rs, easy. We're given the diameter of the cone divided by 2. Okay, so we can do pi 3.4 divided by 2. Oh, that was an interesting number. Times 8.6. If you solve that out, you get 183.72 centimeters squared. Then if we do our cylinder out, we have our 2 pi r squared plus pi 2 pi r h, 2 pi 11.2 divided by 2 squared plus 2 pi 11.2 divided by 2 times 9.3. Calculate each of those out separately. You should get 197.04 and 327.23, 524.27 centimeters squared. Okay, So that accounts for each shape separately. However, we have this area where the cone is sitting on the cylinder that right now is being accounted for the surface area in the cylinder. So the next step for calculating out these problems is to remove any overlapping area from the different shapes where the sides are not exposed. So if we do that, we need to take away the area of that little circle. And remember the diameter of that little circle was 3.4. So if we do our pi 3.4 divided by 2 to get our radius squared, 3.4 divided by 2 squared times pi, we get an area of 9.08 that overlaps. So we need to take that away from our original amounts. So we have 524.27 plus our 183.72. That's our two shapes, and then minus the 9.08. Okay, so that is going to give us a total surface area of this shape of 698.91 centimeters squared. Okay. This next one got mixed up on your notes. Hopefully it didn't get mixed up on your copy. My copy I printed at home was fine, so hopefully yours isn't. But this should be a complete cylinder, a cone, and a circle. Okay. So, oh, not a circle, sorry, sphere. Remember our formula for our sphere is 1/2 because only half of it is exposed and supposed to be exposed. Okay. 4 pi r squared. 1/2 4 pi 0.8 over 2 squared. .005 cylinder. You should get an area of 5.529 meters squared. Okay, because we don't need to account for either side, so it is just 2 pi r times h. And then you have your cone where you only need to account for this part. You don't need to account for the circle at the bottom. So it's just pi r s. So pi 0.4, 1.4, 1.759 meters squared. Okay, then you need to add these three together, and you get a total of 8.293 meters squared. Okay, with this last one, I want you to try it on your own, see if you can figure it out. I will give you the answer. See if you can get there. Surface area is equal to 213.627 feet squared. Remember, identify the shapes separately and then take out the overlap. Okay, once you have that and you've gotten the correct answer, go ahead and start on your practice your skills, numbers 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. Okay, good luck.